don't know where the rest of them went.
Okay. All right. Do you think they're coming or they're holding them up or what? Okay. Okay. Well, welcome. This is Hancock County Historical Society's 31st annual cemetery tour. I'm Catherine Lebrano, and my friends call me Kate. I was born right here in Bay St. Louis in 1871. My parents were Rebecca Douglas and George Maynard. My mother was from Charleston, South Carolina, and my father was from St. Louis, Missouri. At the time of my birth, my father was the town marshal. He was also a Confederate veteran. I met and married Frank J. Lebrano when he was here to purchase lumber to build homes for his workers in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana. So we met and married and started our family of 6 in a large home on the corner of Main Street and Q. Frank maintained his Louisiana residency, so we also had a home in Pointe-a-la-Hache. He was busy. He was there to be the postmaster, the clerk of court, and the justice of the peace. Also, he was the inventor and developer of a process where you take empty oyster shells and you put them at the bottom of the Plaquemines Bay, and they actually cultivate oysters. So that business was very, very successful until 1915, when the government came in and decided they were going to cut an opening into the mouth of the Mississippi, and all that freshwater infusion came in and destroyed the oyster beds. Needless to say, the business failed, and we were forced to sell our property here. So instead of selling the whole entire plot, there was a small house that was also on the back of the property, so I lived there, and my mother lived there with me. At the time, Frank was very busy in Plaquemines with his business, and I was here and busy with my mother being ill. In 1917, I developed skin cancer, and we lived in that smaller home until my death of 1921. So people had lived in the house, in and out, vacant for many, many years. And then my grandchildren decided that they would donate it to the Historical Society. And they did, and it's been a great thing ever since. And so I welcome y'all to visit some of my neighbors and family and friends that rest here with me. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Hello there.
Hello.
My name is Dr. Cyrus M. Ship with 2 P's. I was the public health officer for Hancock County for 24 years. I was born in 1880 in Springdale, Mississippi. Everyone always thought I was going to be a doctor because my father was a doctor. But actually, I started off my career as a railroad man. I worked for the Illinois Central. I made some decent money. As a matter of fact, I made enough to buy a ring for $500 for the love of my life, Betty Boyd, who I met in 1909. I asked her to marry me. She said she would, but she insisted that I sell the ring and use the money to pay for my medical education. So I went to the University of Mississippi, and then I graduated from Tulane Medical in 1917, and that's when Betty and I got married. I did some postgraduate work at Johns Hopkins and Vanderbilt, and then Betty and I moved to Grenada, Mississippi, where I started a private practice. But I didn't find that particularly fulfilling. And after a short time, I went to work for the Rockefeller Foundation. They had a mosquito control program. And that's where I became an authority on malaria and learning how to eradicate it, kill mosquitoes, mosquito control. And I came down here, was hired by the Hancock County to be their public health officer. And I worked here for 24 years. And I supervised the building of drainage canals and taught the county and the people how to remove standing water to keep mosquitoes from breeding. Also supervised the inoculation of school children, and I was the investigator for the food establishments here. Now, during the Depression, the state ran out of money to pay me, but I continued working mainly for what they called scrip at that point, which was a bartering system of sorts. But Betty and I had to work for several years, live for several years on credit, but I kept working anyway. And over time, they added Pearl River County to my workload, and then during World War II, they added Jackson County to my workload as well. But I retired in 1958 at 78 years old, and this is my retirement picture over here. And as you can see, I'm wearing a black jacket there. That's Betty insisted I wear a black jacket for my retirement picture, but I like wearing white all the time. But the doctors of Hancock County, they threw me a testimonial dinner, big banquet. They gave me a silver plaque for my service, and I was really honored by that. As a matter of fact, it was the first time in the history of the state of Mississippi that a health officer had been so honored by the doctors of that county. Well, I died in 1964, and my sweet Betty, she followed me. She died 3 years later. That's the story of Cyrus M. Shipp.
Thank you. Yay. Wonderful. You were very convincing. I wanted to ask you. This is my picture, and these are my two sons, Renee and Roger. When I was 14 years old, I married a 21-year-old Frenchman, Louis Adrien de Montlezun. Ludovic, as I called him, was an idealistic journalist who opposed the Emperor Napoleon III. In 1855, when he became concerned for his safety and that of our family, he left for America with our oldest son, Ferdinand. I emigrated the following year with the other two children at that time. In the years that followed, we had 3 more children. Our family lived in Louisiana for many years until my husband developed heart trouble. We then decided to move to Bay St. Louis, where he opened a pharmacy in 1878, which was the 5th in Mississippi. His first store was on Main Street, but later located on the water side of Beach Boulevard, just the side of the railroad tracks. Our son Renee inherited the pharmacy and worked there as a pharmacist for 50 years. The round glass top showcases, the rose marble countertops, the frosted glass partition shielding the prescription area from view, and the rows of apothecary jars with gold-edged Latin labels were the hallmarks of the store. Mr. Renee, as his customers called him, was loved by all who knew him. Sadly, the building was destroyed by Hurricane Camille in 1969. Roger, who was a physician and surgeon, graduated from Tulane University, and he continued his surgical training in Paris and Vienna. He then began his practice in Baton Rouge. While there, he served as Surgeon General of the state of Louisiana and also a Consul General of France. When he was only 39 years old, he suffered a stroke, which left him unable to walk. So he moved to Bay St. Louis to live with us and set up his office on the 2nd floor of our home. From his wheelchair, he continued his practice and wrote articles for medical journals. He never let his infirmity stop him. I love living on the Mississippi coast. Every morning, regardless of the season, I put on my bathing dress, swam in the waters in front of the house at 208 North Beach, the current location of Baytown Inn. Ludovic and I were married for 62 years. He died on the day after Christmas in 1909. Grief-stricken, I took to my bed and died 3 weeks later, January 19, 1910. Although I have spoken to you tonight in English, I really never consented to speak it during my lifetime. I always considered English a barbaric language. Thank you for listening to my story.
Thank you.
I am Maurice Roget. I was a victim of the yellow fever outbreak in 1892 in Bay St. Louis. That led to me being interred here at Cedar Rest. I kept a journal of my demise, and this is my sad story. as I succumbed to this horrible disease. September 3rd, 1892, day 1. A chill, then the sun is sharp. A headache behind my eyes. Mary says it is nothing, but I can feel it in my bones. Day 2, the heat comes and goes. I'm sweating through my shirt 1 second, shivering with cold the next. No appetite. Rumor in town, another case of the fever on the Auburn Avenue. God help us. Day 3, my skin looks strange in the glass. A yellowish tint, as though I'd swallowed bile. Mary noticed it first. She wipes my head with a rag soaked in vinegar. Mary knows the word, but she will not say it. Day 4, the bells are tolling at Our Lady again. Another burial. The children are kept inside. The streets are deserted. Only the sound of the wagons passing by, carrying the dead. Day 5, the sickness gnaws. My stomach turns against me. Black vomit in the basin. I prayed that I would never see this with my own eyes, but there it is. Mary wept when she emptied it. Day 6, getting weaker. My arms are heavy, my hands hurt. I can hear my little ones outside the door whispering. Mary will not let them near. Safer that way, though it breaks my heart. Day 7, fading in and out. Shadows growing on the edges. I heard my mother's hymn last night. Perhaps a dream, perhaps not. September 10th, 1892, day 8. Hands too weak to hold a pen, writing crooked. The Gulf wind brings a scent of magnolia and salt through my window. Sweet, even now. I will keep this as my last memory. Thank y'all.
You're very good. Very good.
Well, I'm just reading a story about me here in the Seacoast Echo. And the story was in 1894. And it's about a lady that was visiting Bay St. Louis and was having problems with her teeth. And I did everything I could to assist her. And I actually made a copy of the story so you can take it with you, because there's something else I want you to know about also. First, who am I? My name is George Ludwig Mitchell. And I was born in 1858, just before the Civil War, in what is known as Shieldsboro. I think you people call that today Bay St. Louis, is that correct? Now, you look really old. Were you born in Shieldsboro or Bay St. Louis? Well, anyway, I grew up here and I got educated and I became a dentist. But before I began my dental practice, I wanted to see what was going on out west. So I left here and I got out there and I got mixed up with another dentist. And we spent a lot of time in saloons, drinking beer, chasing women.
Yeah, we got that.
Card games, and once in a while, we even had to use our 6 guns. Now, young man, I got pretty good with my guns. I'm going to have you say go in a minute, okay? And when you say go, I'm going to pull my guns out, shoot them, and put them back in my pistol. You ready? Whenever you're ready, you say go.
Go.
You want to see it again? Now, after hanging out with this dentist, and I knew this was going downhill for several years, I said I needed to get back to Bay St. Louis, and I wanted peace and quiet and a wife. Wait a minute, that's contradictory, isn't it? But I wanted a wife, and I wanted to open up my practice. So I got back here, and I met a lady by the name of Nettie Bookter. There's a street right over here called Bookter Street. By any chance, does anybody live on Bookter Street? The last group, there was somebody here, yeah. Well, anyway, on Bookter Street and Front Street, which I understand you all call Beach Boulevard right now, I opened up my dental office. And on my dental office, I took great pride in being able to cap people's teeth. Am I interfering with you?
Yes.
Okay. I took great pride in capping people's teeth and making it painless. I could also preserve natural teeth. And believe it or not, in 1890s, I was using gas and other anesthetics to make things painless for people, and I took great pride in my false teeth. But I would be amiss if I didn't tell you about my dental assistant, Florence. Some people call her Florence, some people Flo, some people Floss, depending on the day. She was a sweetheart, always singing, happy as could be. If she wasn't singing, she was doing needlework. She kept everything clean, and she knew that I disliked working on people with bad breath. So she came up with an idea. She would pour a little water into this, and then she would throw a little salt into it, and then she would throw a piece of mint just to give it some flavor, shake it up, and before people came into my office, she would have them drink it and swish it around in their mouth. And actually she was happy all the time singing. She'd be singing while she's doing this. And she would say, now spit it into this vase. Well, after a while, the people said, we're taking and we're spitting to a tune. But then they shortened it up and they just called it a spittoon. And that's where the word spittoon came from. And I told Floss that I thought this was a good idea. I don't know if it ever caught on in the future or not, but I would have called it mouthwash. But there would still be people there, and sometimes they'd have stuff stuck between their teeth. And so Floss, she would take where she was doing the needle and thread, and she would put that in there and clean it out, and the people started to say that they were flossed. Again, I don't know if that ever caught on, but she was good. So, anyway, we were part of society here in Bay St. Louis. And Bay St. Louis had a lot of hotels on the beach, and they had dining rooms overlooking the water, and they were quite elegant. And that's one of the reasons I want you to take the flyer, because it shows one of our favorite dining rooms that we would go to. And people, they would dress to the nines. And it was really fun going out. And we were happy with our life here in Bay St. Louis. And that basically is what I wanted to tell you, but I need a little help on something. When you go back up front, I have a complaint. The people in the Historical Society, they know I was 45 years old when I died. I was strong, built well, good looking, and they have some 80-year-old man portraying me. Tell them I am unhappy. Now, when you leave here, I hope you go over to our building, have a couple of hot dogs, have some drinks, and there's a slideshow going on there. And young man, we're talking about teeth. So if a bear doesn't have any teeth, what do we call them?
Gummy bear.
You take these people away. So there we go.
That's really good.